ready to go now. So first of all, a very warm welcome. And today we have got a webinar on conflict. So let me walk you through our game plan today. So the game plan is we'll do a very quick 2-minute introduction and we greet each other, which we have already done. And we're going to move into the content in terms of what is conflict and then to understand a little bit about conflict. And then moving on to the next part is how do we resolve it? Okay, and from my work experience, I have got some tips in terms of how do we resolve conflicts, or even better, before the conflict actually arise, how do we do it to prevent it from happening? So there are some tips which I would love to share with you as well. And then the last part, we're going to wrap up the session with some Q&A, and also there are some TED Talks and there's some courses which I would like to recommend for your further development. Okay, so that's our plan today. Okay, all right. So about me, as I've mentioned, I am a coach for Leadership Tribe. And this session, however, is not about me. It's actually about us working together and trying to make the session successful. All right, let's move on. So I have got a quiz for you at the starting of the session. And what is a conflict? So here is a small context, like a conflict like in the workplace, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch the quiz and you should be able to see it in front of your screen. And what I'll do is I'll give you 45 seconds. Please read through all the questions and then choose your answers. Let's end the poll and let me share the result. Okay. The funny fact is, as soon as I launched the quiz, I have got some people ticked all of the above. Okay, I've seen that 2 people immediately, all of the above. Commonly, it can be a choice. However, this is a tricky question here, I'm afraid. Let's look at all these answers. Yeah. So first of all, what is a conflict? So it occurs when people disagree on something. So obviously, if there's any sort of like a struggle or disagreement, and there will be a conflict. No problem with that. Next one, it's inevitable when people work together, okay? Not even talking about people work together, talking about your family members, talking about the people who you are closely related with, you have conflicts, don't you? Sometimes. Yeah, we do. Okay, so that's no problem with that. And the next one is emotionally driven process. Yes, absolutely. You know, when we get into conflict, the emotion is high, we are angry, frustrated, and sometimes, you know, it can go the wrong way, and no problem with that. Okay, the funny answer is D. It has negative implications and sets the team back. So this is where the trick is. It might have negative implications and it might have positive implications as well. And in that sense, which might help the team to work together, find a solution, and then help the team to improve. So this is where the trick is, okay? So for whoever select all of above, I'm afraid it's not all of above. All right, thank you very much for participating. So the answer is conflicts are not always bad. It can be bad, but not always bad. So what is conflict then? What is it? Let's have a look on those definitions which I have consolidated here. So I have noted a few things here, okay? So first of all, conflict, it really have different types. If we look at it at a personal level, sometimes I even have a conflict with myself. What should I do? What is my career path? And all these questions, should I go watch a movie tonight or should I eat dinner first? These are all intrapersonal within an individual type of conflict. Also, it can be interpersonal between you, your partner, your work colleague, anyone between 2 different individuals. You might have different ideas, disagreement. You might have a conflict from there. Sometimes it can be intra-group, which means it's actually in a team. In your team, you might have different ideas from a project manager to the business analyst, from the developer to solution architect. You might hold different ideas, and that's intra-group conflict. And sometimes from a team to a team, you have got, conflicts, shared resources. For example, the environment is being used by another team. The other person cannot have the same environment for testing purposes, for example, and this is intergroup Okay, so we have different teams. Between teams, we have those conflict as well. And not talking about organizational level, it's even bigger from that perspective. And also, if you look at it from a different end, right? Okay, we have got all the different types of conflict. And in terms of a relationship, sometimes I have got my belief and I have got something which I regard as my principles that I would not I would not let go no matter what. But sometimes when I was, like talking to some of my friends or even my partner, and it became apparent to me that we have that conflict sometimes. Sometimes our cultural background is different. Sometimes our belief systems are different. And sometimes the way how we perceive the world is different. And that might cause relationship conflict as well. And some of the other tasks can be task-based, how this work should be done. My way probably be different from someone else. Actually, last week, me and a co-trainer has developed a training for product owners. Okay, so we have developed the APO courses, we delivered it. And in some of the content, my way of what is the best for the participants is different from the other co-trainer. So we have sort of like, disagreement and a small conflict in there as well. So this is task-based conflict. And sometimes in the process, we are trying to walk our tasks, like trying to have a strategy in terms of how we're going to do things, how we're going to delegate some of the work, duties, or resources. And that might be like a conflict as well along the process. So really, there are multiple types of conflict. Okay. However, it doesn't matter like what types of conflict you're talking about or you might be involved in. And when we talk about a conflict, it always involves some sort of struggle or incompatibilities or perceived differences among values, goals, or designs or needs, what you want from a certain event or what you want to achieve from a certain project, so on and so forth. And for any interpersonal conflict, action is key. Okay, so until someone express about it, like their frustration, or until someone do something about it, like they take action about it, and conflict can be latent. Okay, so it can stay below the water until someone take an action about something. All right, and also power or attempts to influence inevitably occur within conflict. Okay, so I still remember this time, me and my other half, we took a weekend tour to Paris. And we actually had a power struggle in the middle of the street over who is going to take a picture of whom first. Okay, now if I look back, like this is like 2 decades ago probably, and I will felt this is so stupid and silly. But back then, the power struggle between us, like I'm going to do it first, like take a picture of you first, not you can take a picture of me first, almost got us divorced. Okay, all right, so joke aside, there's always kind of like a power or attempts to influence occurring in those conflicts. Okay, last point is what I want to highlight here, as what we just mentioned, saying that conflicts are not necessarily all dysfunctional. Okay, they can be. And when you find people probably locked in deadlocks of conversations, they couldn't get agreement, and no one is willing to make the first move, and everything just stopped there. Or they have got like a big core about it and make the team feel bad about it. And this can be dysfunctional conflict. And this would actually impact the team performance in a bad way. However, take it on a positive spin, it can be functional as well, which means the conflict can actually surface problems, can surface different opinions, different ideas about how we can best complete that particular project. And in those circumstances, the teams can come together, find a solution, and then find probably an innovative way to actually address the issue. And these actually help the team, help the team to come and serve one goal, and to help the team to improve its performance as well. So this is what I've summarized there about what is a conflict. Okay, so now we come to a very interesting question in terms of how do we actually deal with conflict then? How do we deal with it? So I have got a cartoon clip here, which I basically find on YouTube. I found it's quite interesting. And what I would do is, this is only 2 minutes. Okay, I will play it here, but there should be no copyright issues because I've made it very clear. We find it on YouTube. And if you are watching the recording, then probably you need to go for this link and then watch on YouTube. And we are going to take it out from the recording. Okay, so let me play it. It's only 2 minutes, and let's watch it and find out how did those characters deal with the conflict in this video. All right, so we have now watched this tiny video clip, and where we have got the reindeer, the bear, and we have got a rabbit and a raccoon, I think, to cross the bridge, but they met in the middle of the bridge and they're trying to resolve that particular conflict. So what are your takeaways? I'm curious. Can you just use the chat window, please? Just your key takeaways from watching this video. Simple, just tiny language, please, just whatever you have taken away. Very quickly, I'm just going to give you a minute for that. Okay, when I say simple, one word is probably too simple. Austin, I'm sorry. Compromise, but what does that mean? Is it one of strategies? I think from that perspective, you're right. But maybe, in slightly more complicated sense from there. Okay, so we have got some answers coming in. Okay, combining perspective can help reach a solution faster. Beautiful. Thank you very much, Violina. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, collaboration over competing against each other. Beautiful. Thank you, Jilin. Right, Ashwini said mutual understanding, coordination. Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Okay, leads to unnecessary sacrifices. Okay, all right. Okay, I see your message now. Thank you. So compromise leads to unnecessary sacrifices. Okay, learn from others, conflict. Wow, look at that, Deepa. Thank you. That's even something which I haven't thought about. That's beautiful. Thank you all very much. Okay, I think the ideas are kind of like synchronizing with each other from what we have watched. Okay, others can take advantage of people in conflict. Okay, let's talk about that in a bit. All right, so thank you all. I'm just going to stop reading messages now. And we all came up with ideas in terms of, okay, we have got different approaches in terms of, how these animals have to resolve their conflict. Some has worked out and some hasn't worked out, and there are different strategies. So what are these strategies are we looking at? So let me introduce you a model. Sorry. So this model is called the conflict resolution techniques. Okay, so the conflict resolution model. So this model is developed by two people, Thomas and Kuhlman, and that's why it's called the Thomas and Kuhlman model. So in this model, it has identified two dimensions people fall into when they have a conflict. Okay, so like how they derive their strategies. So if we look at it, the y-axis is assertiveness and the x is cooperativeness. So ultimately, assertiveness involves taking action to satisfy your own needs, and cooperativeness involves taking action to satisfy the other party's needs. Okay, so it's two. So y is about the y-axis, assertiveness is about satisfying your needs. X is about satisfying the other people's needs. Okay, so now let's look at these different, like the 5 different approaches. How do we resolve a conflict? So let's start from the bottom. So the one at the bottom, green one here, is avoiding. Yeah, so if we apply a strategy of avoiding, as the name suggests, so basically what we're trying to do is we're just trying to step away. We're just trying to ignore what has happened or just sideline this whole conflict. And then in the hope that, the conflict will just resolve itself one day and it just might disappear. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes if you leave the issue, if you don't address it and leave it for a few days, it will be go away. Sometimes that's the case, it happens. However, sometimes it might not. So let's look at the next one, which is called accommodating, which is to the right-hand side of avoiding. So here, what we are saying is we are trying to taking steps to satisfy the other party's need. Okay, so we prioritize the other party's needs or desires over our own. And basically we are making them happy at the expenses of our own needs or designs. So this is about accommodating. So someone has already mentioned about that, accommodating. Okay, and if you look in the middle, we have got compromising. So compromising is really find out approach or find out a solution which would partially, okay, remember, partially, not entirely satisfy both parties. So basically each one of us would be partially happy about the solution. So I'm taking a step back, you are taking a step back, and instead, we will both achieve something, from this event. Okay, or from this the whole issue which we're talking about, and that's compromising. So if we look up and we have got competing, so this is someone who would satisfy their own needs at the expense of the other party. So it's about them, it's not about anybody else. So me, that's competing. And the last one is collaborating. So this is where we find a solution which entirely satisfy the concerns of all parties involved. So we are making this a win-win situation. So you walk away 100% happy, and I'm going to get what I want 100%. And that's called collaborating. So we're working this whole thing out. So as you'll probably be aware, if we look back to the little video, okay, the first in terms of like conflict resolution between the bear, the reindeer is probably no, I'm going to get across first, you need to go back. So that's like a more competing strategy. However, for the rabbit and for the raccoon, they were like, okay, you know what? We both need to get through this. Let's work this way out. Okay, you can leap over me and you can go to another direction. So they work this out together collaboratively. Okay, all right. So let's move on. So based on the same research, okay, so those two researchers, Thomas and Kuhlman, so they have identified, based on the 5 different strategies to resolve a conflict, they have actually identified the 5 different conflict handling styles. So they have listed it out here. This is actually quite interesting. So let's have a look on these styles. So basically what they do is, for each of the style, they have selected a representing animal. Okay, so what sort of animal they have picked? I don't know why they picked what they picked, but this is what they picked to represent those particular styles. So let's have a look. So the first one on the top is called the competitive shock. So this is where, as we have, like identified earlier, it's either my way or the highway. Okay, so it has to be my way. I have to be right. So this is where the attitude of the sharks come in, saying that it's my way. Okay, so they are actually enforcing themselves or competing, to get their way done, to get their goal achieved. And they do have a need to win, saying that it has to, like they have a drive to win, say my way, I'm right. So they do have the desire to be right in that as well. So as we mentioned before, when we're in this competing stage, what we're talking about is they will pursue their interest, okay, saying that's my way, my interest, and at other people's expenses. Okay, so whatever would help them to do it in that way, they would do it. And sometimes it might not work in their favor because they are sharks, and sometimes might come across as uncooperative. They might come across as threatening and then even intimidating. Okay, and people don't like sharks sometimes. Okay, sometimes people have a better understanding, saying, okay, they do what they do for a reason. Sometimes people are like, no, I don't like these people at all. And I'm saying this because recently I've helped a client, and to help them to basically their team is a little bit clueless about what they need to do to achieve the team's vision. So given the time constraint, I actually stepped in to work with the sponsor, and we clarified a few things to make sure that they know what are the steps going to look like, what are the steps they need to immediately start doing. And then for that, it's a little bit enforcing, saying, no, we know what is the right thing to do here. The time is limited. Let's crack on doing this. And some people would take it nicely. Some people would say, well, you actually, they don't quite like this approach, but that happens. And sometimes when you need to get things done, when you have an emergency and you need something to be done quickly and more decisively, then this approach is probably the style is what you need to pick to get things done. Okay, however, it might be unpopular for that purposes, for the right reason. But this is what we call the competitive shock. All right, let's move on. So the next one in the line is called the collaborative awe. Okay, so when we're saying it's collaborative, so we know that it's about win-win. And for people with this style, they would normally value both the goals as well as the relationship. So they would, spend time to gather information, to speak to people, look for alternatives, and have a bit open dialogue. What do you think? What else we can do? And they welcome disagreement, saying, oh, I'm happy to take any opinions. So they are trying to create that win-win solution, and which is agreeable to all sides. However, as you probably get the sense already, sometimes it's very time consuming to get everyone on the boat, to get everyone agree. And given that of which, if relationship and the goals are very important, you probably need to get the buy-in from all stakeholders. And that's why this collaborative all style is probably something which you need. Okay, so it depends on the issue and depends on the relationship and how you value them to be important or not. All right, so move on. The next one, let's talk about the avoidant turtle. Okay, so for avoidance, we talk about, this is where we just withdraw ourselves, saying that, what conflict? What conflict? Okay, I don't know to meet anything, and I'm just going to leave it as it is. So this is where sometimes you will be uncooperative or unassertive about anything, because basically you just giving up everything. Yeah, you just give up your personal goals, and sometimes it will help you to maintain the relationships. And however, with this approach, please be aware, leave it might resolve some issue, but sometimes it will leave the negative problems or the negative feelings linger as well, because you don't address it, and then people will just drag on, in that negative mode, and it might not be what you want. However, as we said, sometimes if the problem is small, you might as well to leave it. Doesn't harm anything. Okay, all right. So let's move on to the accommodating teddy bear. Okay, so this is interesting. So teddy bear is where we talk about, it's accommodating. So it's trying to, focus a bit more on the relationship. I don't really care that much about what I get from this, and there's always an element of self-sacrifice. So I'm willing to sacrifice my need to make other people happy. Okay, this is like teddy bear saying that I'm making you happy. That's all I need from this. And then there's always, about relationship building and then trying to help other people to achieve their goals. Someone has said in our chat window saying that people might take advantage. So this type of teddy bear is like the style is likely to be taken advantage of, because literally they would sacrifice themselves for, like a sustainable relationship, something like that. So just watch out for that. You might do that, but just watch out that some people might exploit that particular opportunity. Okay, but sometimes, honestly speaking, if it's not like something which you don't really care that much, why not? Okay, for example, over the weekend, my friend asked me to go out. And honestly, I felt like, my friend asked me to go out and we were trying to pick a restaurant. So we were having good ideas throwing out, on WhatsApp saying, what would you like to eat? I said, I would like to eat something nice, hot, like ramen maybe. And my friend said, no, I prefer Italian. I was like, okay, go for it. Because this is so tiny, it doesn't really matter. So I'm more than willing to accommodate because it does not matter to me. So when it does not matter to you, why not? Right? Given that you're good friends, you have got a great relationship, go for it. So this is the teddy bear. So the last one left is the compromising fox. So compromising fox, as we discussed, is like a little bit of give and take, right? So I will give you this if you let me have that. So this is a kind of like give and take relationships. So in this approach, we have mentioned, it's like we are trying to reach these mutually agreed places where each one of us will take something away. So there will be something which will satisfy both of us, but there will be something which will not get. Okay, so that's why it's called compromising. So when we have very complicated issues and when we have probably no clear understanding of the solution, or probably not quite understand of the people like in this particular event, and we probably will go for that approach. Yeah, it might not always be ideal, but sometimes, we have to compromise. Okay, so these are the 5 different styles, and we have got different styles for conflict management. So for you, sometimes you need to dance the dance, you need to wait what is the strategy or what is style you need to adopt in order to resolve the particular conflict in that particular context. So it is up to you. Okay, in terms of what you want to choose and pick depending on the context. And ultimately, this is what we call agile, right? Because we adapt our approaches depending on what the problem is. So given set of that, here is my question for you. Okay, so what do you reckon is your default representative animal? Okay, I know that we always have something like we default into saying, I'm accommodating teddy bear. I don't care many things as long as my friends are happy, my colleagues are happy. And that's a bit like me. Okay, I have to be honest. But what about you? I would like to reflect, trying to understand what is your style. And it's no right or wrong question. It's no good or bad. It's just who we are. Okay, and this is a safe environment. So would you like just pop into the window? Like, what style do you think is your default style? Or it actually represents you, basically. We'd like to use the chat window and let me have a look. Ooh, someone said teddy bear, like me. Someone said shark. Someone said teddy bear. Okay, we have got lots of teddy bears in this room. That's great. Okay, excellent. Oh, we have got O as well. Nice. You see, we all have got different styles, and this is something I would like you to be aware. Okay, I would like you to be aware. As individuals, different, beautiful, unique individuals, we all have our different styles. And when you recognize you have got different styles, please reflect on other people. They have their styles as well. So how do we work around? How do we work with them? And this is something I want you to take away. Okay, and this whole process is called self-awareness. So by helping us realize who we are, what the style is, advantages, disadvantages, we can actually start to action on something, saying that, okay, this is how I can change, I can manage myself, I can adopt according to the different scenario. So very important, and we all have our own understanding. okay? And we self-reflect, we can ask for feedback. So these are different ways to help us validate our understanding, because sometimes our perspectives, our lenses, how we see this world, how we see the selves might not be the case of how others perceive us. So trying to validate your understanding. Okay, and Violina said, I want to be in awe, and in frustration, I sometimes become a teddy bear. There's no need to be frustrated, Violina, okay? And we are who we are for the beautiful reasons. However, there are different situations we need to adopt, okay? It's not like I want to be the shark. Sharks work in some scenarios, but not in other scenarios. I want to be the owl. Okay, sometimes it works, sometimes it might not. So we need to adopt, okay? But thank you for that feedback. All right. On that note, I would like to move on to the next. So we talk about the conflict, like we resolve conflict. And sometimes, right, we need to be aware of the iceberg. Let me show you what the iceberg looks like. So when we look at a conflict, what we see is the tip, the tiny part of the iceberg is talking about the event. We have a conflict. So this is the event. This is probably being represented by the behavior. Okay, for example, I'm hungry and I came in and I just put my mug heavily on my table, boom. That shows I'm hungry. And for conflict, sometimes we have fight, we have argument, sometimes we have body language indicate that we are frustrated about you, we have arguments, and we have this fight, flight, freeze responses to those conflict. Okay, and this is what we see only at the surface level. However, what is really driving the conflict is at the bottom, and that is the major reason, the causes, the reason of why we have the conflict in the first place. I have mentioned a few examples here, okay? It can be environmental pressures. For example, everyone is being aware of COVID. How stressful is that? Environmental pressures. Every day you switch on the news, you got the figure, you have got the number of affected people growing across the world, right? And that adding to your pressure. I'm worried about my families in China. I'm worried about the things. I'm worried about, like my travel plans. I'm worried about the courses which I booked. Am I still able to be flying to Australia to deliver the course? These all add on to the pressure of a particular individual. Sometimes it can be values, right? What I felt like if I'm having an argument with someone else, sometimes it's because fundamentally I don't agree with how the way how it's being delivered. So that can run deeper in terms of that might violate with my principles, or that might go against my values, and that might not be of my interest at all. It can be a number of things, but the disagreement or the argument is only the surface of it. And sometimes dig into the deeper level of that particular iceberg, trying to understand those problems at a deeper level would help us to resolve the dispute much more quicker. Okay, so the deeper you go, the quicker you'll be able to address it or even prevent it from happening. Yeah, so these are the things we need to be aware. Do not look at a conflict in isolation of the event or the behavior, trying to understand why, trying to understand the deeper reasons and what is below the surface. And this is what matters. Okay, this is what matters. And this is where drives the behavior and drives the tip of that particular event of the conflict. Just be aware of those things. So some people might ask, okay, great, I would like to dig deeper, but how? How do we do that? So this is where I have got some conflict resolution tips, which I have accumulated, over my experience of a change management consultant, of a performance coach, and of an enterprise agile coach. So let's have a look on this. All right, starting from the first one. So I've noted here, celebrate diversity, be curious and ask questions to find out more, practice acceptance, and you may respectively disagree and move on. So one thing here I would like to mention is about diversity. Okay, diversity and inclusivity is some of the top or hot topic which is being discussed all the way across corporations. And for me, it is very important. It is very important. And some of you might be laughing, saying that, you know what? I know about diversity. I know about like the people, you know, like working from different cultural background. But my question is, do you really? Even if you say I understand them, do you accept them? Do you really accept them as who they are? And one of the key things here I've mentioned is about be curious and ask questions. As a coach, as a co-worker, as a human being, it's so important for us to do not make any assumptions. Okay. And when I was at the beginning of my career, I used to think I know my stuff and I assume saying that this is what is going to happen until I'm proved otherwise. Now I'm better at things. So now I know saying that do not assume anything. Okay, do not assume anything unless you assume good intention, but that's a different story. So do not assume anything. Always trying to be curious, trying to ask more questions. What make people behave the way what they do? Is there anything which I have done, you know, to make them uncomfortable? Is there anything, you know, which I could do to help them to change the attitude or to cooperate or to collaborate with me to get the work done? So from there, we can always work something out. From there, we can develop a more healthier relationship together. So when I was working in the project management office, I worked with all different sorts of people across business, across IT, across portfolio, across program, and asking questions, be curious, be non-judgmental is absolutely important for you to build that healthy relationship and working with your teams and peers. Okay, right. Next one I've got is choose listen over here and respond over react in conflict resolution. I absolutely love it. Okay, listen is different from here. Here is like a passive. You said something, I heard you. Listen is more active, right? We talk about active, we talk about listening. And also there's something which we teach in the facilitation course about levels of listening. So how did you actively understand people, listen to what they're saying, but not only to what they're saying, also what they want, what their desires are, what their needs are, and trying to understand them as a human being. And also do not react to things. It's easy to react. However, trying to think, be curious, and then you respond instead of react. Okay, that's absolutely key as well. And a wise man told me, it's not about what you say, but how you say it. And I am quite surprised when I heard this for the first time, but it really worked for me. Okay, let me tell you one quick tip. Sometimes we have all the reason to believe we are right. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I am right according to me, you are right according to you, because we have our perceptions background to decide what we think, what we see is right according to ourselves. However, sometimes, are you 100% sure that you are right though? Okay, so for me, to put my point across, I learned one way, which is to put my perspective or to put my point across in the form of a question. So this is what I understood. Is that in line with what you're saying? Or what is it that we can improve together? Instead of, I'm telling you, this is what we're going to do, right? You can ask for their perspective, ask people's opinion. It'll make them feel more engaged and they'll be working together with you to achieve the shared vision or the shared outcome. All right. And sometimes when things go wrong, honestly, you just need someone to actually take your frustration out. I have friends like this at work, right? If there's something which I'm not happy about, and I might just go to her saying that, okay, hear me out on this thing which just happened. It licked me off so badly. I need to bounce these things out. And you know what? After I said this, she might give me a different perspective, or I will feel better, because I have already bounced my frustration out, and then I will be able to stay calm. I'll be able to do something about it. I'll be able to respond to it instead of react to it. So sometimes have a counterparty really helps. All right. So here, I think we've touched upon that already. Don't argue with perceptions. You are right according to you, and the other party is always right according to them. Okay, please bear in mind that it's just like our lenses, how we see the world through our eyes, how we interpret it is right according to me. And I'm sure that everyone, has got a different opinion on something else apart from me, which is okay. Right? This is about accepting others openly and then, trying to reach something in common from there. Right. Number 6, don't judge behaviors, because behaviors can be dysfunctional, but human beings are not. Okay. We need to put people into situations. Remember the iceberg which we look at. Behavior is only the top of the iceberg. What happened underneath? That's the real reason, and that might be the reason which lead people to behave in a way. So let's try to understand what has happened, right? What has led the person to behave probably in a different way, and how can we help them to resolve the matter, right? And next one is talking about growth mindset. Okay, so growth mindset is in opposition to fixed mindset. So it's about there's always room to improve. There's always more to learn, and then have an open mind, and also trying to understand, trying to get more, achieve more. All right, the last one. And sometimes when we're having that heat, people conflict, in the conflict in the show, and just use your humor. Use empathy, trying to understand and trying to elevate, from the burden of the confrontation. And humor, I could not advise you more to use that to diffuse some of the bombs which are in front of you. Okay, it worked for me when I was in the project manager role, dealing with 11 project managers in European cities trying to deliver Brexit. And honestly, the tension, it's something which I don't want to go through again, but humor really worked. Okay, so these are some of the advices from me. And ultimately, some people might say, you know what, sometimes it's really, really hard and situation can be tough. Yes, but also remember, right? It's like climbing a mountain. If you're climbing, the higher the mountain you go to, once you are there, you feel, wow, the view you've seen, the success you have achieved, will make you feel so good. So remember that. And then the harder the conflict, the more glorious the result or the success you will achieve. Just bear in mind in that. All right. And on the last note, sometimes you can't deal with it. And in life, it's just important to know that when to stop arguing with people and simply let them be wrong. Okay, however, do try though, do try beforehand. I'm not saying, no, just let me be wrong. No. But sometimes, people are people. Sometimes they don't listen, they don't collaborate, and there are people like that. Okay, I'm not saying this is the ideal word. There are people like that, but sometimes what can you do, right? There are some things which are outside your control. So when those things happen, stop arguing and just let them be wrong. Okay, so we are coming to the end of our session. And whereas I was preparing for this particular session, there are some recommended studies which I would like to give to you. So these are some of the TED Talks which I found very, very good about conflict. So here is a list of it, and you will have the links and you will have this PPT after this particular session. And if you do have any questions, like regarding any of this, or if you want to discuss anything, then obviously you can contact us. But I mean, these are some of the sources you can look into. Thank you for being wonderful audiences. And I can take some questions if you have any. And obviously, if there's anything which you think we can help you or your organization, then please do reach out to us and we can arrange some consultation sessions with you guys. I've left my email address as well as the company email address, telephone number in there should you need to reach out to us.